Juist in deze onzekere tijden is het belangrijk om elkaar te blijven ontmoeten, te informeren en te inspireren over hoe we het morgen slimmer en beter kunnen doen. Welkom bij de livecast van Pakhuis de Zwijger.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Caught by the Sky in Pakhuis de Zwijger, and welcome to Verhalen by Vrijdag. I think I said it pretty well. My name is Lara Ricote, and I'm here on behalf of the Zoetropes. We're an international storytelling collective coming here to tell you stories on this Friday. First, before I introduce you to any of them and before I tell you about this evening, I wanted to welcome you and thank you so much for being here and being a part of this evening. From your home, from welcoming us into your home. You're very sweet for doing so thank you. And for choosing us instead of all the other options that you could potentially have today. So tonight is about nature stories. I think you might have seen by the name, we're going to tell stories that came to us when we asked ourselves the question, when is a time that nature taught us a lesson? So we have the opportunity, you might see it if you're following us from Zoom or if you're following us from the live cast, to ask us questions. But really what we would really want from you is for you to tell us moments that nature has taught you a lesson or a favorite place of nature of yours, and try to connect with nature stories of your own, if anything pops up to you during one of our stories. And that's what it's for. So just so you know, you can continuously write stuff and say whatever you liked about our stories as well. Like I said, my name is Lara, and before I introduce you, once again, thank you so much. We have 6 storytellers tonight, and they're all very short stories, short enough to keep your attention span coming, and you'll be fine. You'll be fine because they'll be short, and you'll have a lot of different people from a lot of different places. It'll be all very exciting. We have 2 of our first storytellers here. You can see yourself there, you guys. Great. So I'll tell you about how the evening is going to go. Our first storyteller is Maaike. She's from Almere and also Utrecht. Then we'll have Farah, who's from Sicily, but then Friesland. Then we'll have Lauren, who's from Orlando and then Utrecht. Then we'll have Batal, who's from Turkey, but also Amsterdam. And Naomi from Uganda and The Hague. And me, who's from Mexico, but now I live here. And all in between of everything, we are very lucky to be able to have Eric Sjöholm, who will sing us songs. His end song will be about everything that you guys saw today, which is very exciting. It'll be a song that's a wrap-up of the stories, and you'll have one that's one of his originals about his nature story in the middle. And he's from Finland, but a small town there that they speak Swedish. So that's very international for you, ladies and gentlemen. Well, anyways, we hope you really, really enjoy the night, and I'll be your host, so I'll be here in between, but mostly we'll just have stories one after the other. So I hope you're interested. Now, please put your hands together for the very lovely Maaike.
When I was a student, I loved it to be surrounded by people. So I made sure I lived in a big student house. I joined the student board, and in the weekends I went rowing or to bars. But when I finished my study, I realized it was time for something different. So I went to the silent hills of France to do something with my hands, to cook. I went to the monastery where a friend of my aunt lived. And this place was surrounded by green hills with little trees and a big river crossing it all. Now, this place was something different than everything I had seen before. And there was this, for example, there was this prayer hall where they had big statues, golden statues of Buddhas, and cushions, maroon cushions all over the ground, and little tables where every morning and throughout the day, the monks would sit and chant in deep, low voices mantras. I lived in a place 20 minutes away from there, in a little village, because I was a woman and this place was a place only for men. I spent my mornings in the kitchen. Now this kitchen was an old grandma-like kitchen, but it had 2 giant fridges with glass doors, and behind it, vegetables of all colors were waiting for my decision to be boiled, cooked, to be eaten raw, or whatever my plan was for that day. I took out the carrots. I put them under the cold water and washed them gently, and I admired their orange combined with green. I put them gently on the kitchen table, and I started cutting them, enjoying the sound of the crisp from the carrot and the knife. And slowly, little eyes were appearing from the middle of the carrots that were happily looking back at me. Now, after lunch, I stayed for a bit around the table with the monks. And they were all chatting and ping-ponging arguments about Buddhism and about the nature of reality, when one of the monks shared a quote from the Buddha. "It is your mind that creates this world," he said. I looked around to the faces of these men from all corners of the world, a young one with glasses and a serious face, an old one with a big smile and many wrinkles. I heard the chanting far away, and I smelled the soup and the incense. It's my mind that creates this world? When I was in the kitchen, this sentence was still spinning in my mind, and I was mindlessly scraping more carrots, looking into the hills. Now, the next morning, I woke up too late. I grabbed my stuff, jumped on my bike, and crossed the muddy roads and the barking dogs from behind the fences. When I arrived, I grabbed the carrots again, and I smashed them in the water, cleaned them quickly, jumped them on the table again, and started cutting them in a high speed, 3 pieces, 3 at a time. I cut myself, those bastards. I put them in the hot water, and those little eyes were looking at me again. Those annoying things. Well, healthy, beautiful sometimes. Something clicked. A few weeks later, I was back in Utrecht, and I walked in the streets, people hurrying around me, sound from the shops, when a friend appeared from the distance, out of the crowd, and he stood right in front of me. "Long time no see," he said. You look good, different." I looked back at him and I said, "Well, it's your mind that creates this world."
I arrived on a tropical island to explore. And the first thing that hits me are the smells. It's like a mixture of grilled meat, wet trees, and sweet fruit. And the plan is not to have a plan, to just see and wonder. So I see this lady selling filled banana leaves, and I buy one, and I put it in my mouth, and I quickly realize that this is too spicy for my Western taste. Then I see a guy playing with the chicken on the floor, and I ask him where the hostels are. And he points me into the right direction. And as I walk, I see wooden sheds for restaurants and the locals greeting and smiling at me. And then I see this sign, scuba diving here. And I think, yes, of course, that's what I'm gonna do here. I've always wanted to do this. I've heard great stories about it. And I also saw this documentary on Netflix where this guy becomes friends with an octopus, and he becomes like one with the water, and he swims so freely. And it's amazing. It's amazing. It's an amazing world down there, and I wanna see that. I wanna feel that as well. So the next day, I have this big smile on my face and a rush of excitement when my diving instructor tells me that if we're lucky, we even get to see giant turtles. Her name is Amy, and her short blonde hair is a spiky mess, and her love for the sea is contagious. And she explains me, what we're going to do, and we practice a little bit in the pool. And a few hours later, I found myself on a boat with more people who looked totally ready for this venture. And Amy stands in the middle, and she runs us through again what we're going to do, and the rules, like never go up to the surface alone by yourself. And I know, I got all that. But then she says, in case of emergency, when there's danger, you need to do this sign. And I think, danger? I mean, like, what can go wrong? Suddenly, a million things that can go wrong come to my mind. And I wonder whether this was a good idea. But there's no time to think, because everyone is already putting on the gear, so I do the same. I put on the wetsuit and the flippers and the mask, which is way too big for my head, I think, but they tell me that this is the size for my kind of head, so this must be it. And I sit on the edge of the boat, and for those of you who've never scuba dived before, you're wearing this huge oxygen tank on your back. So you need to sit on the boat with your back towards the sea, and then fall backwards. And my heart is pounding in my chest, but everyone is already in the water, so I just go 3, 2, 1, and I fall in the water. And in the water, I immediately feel like I definitely made the wrong decision today. And I look around, and everyone is like happy and going in the water, and I try to do the same. I look, and I go a little bit in the water, but I don't see anything. The ocean is dark, and it's unclear. I don't see anything. And also, it's really hard to breathe. I mean, all these thoughts come to my mind, like what if I don't have enough oxygen? What if I can't go up on time? What if my head explodes? And suddenly I feel boxed in. I'm trapped in this huge ocean, and I feel smaller than the tiniest shrimp. And I can't breathe anymore, so I quickly look around, and luckily Amy is there, and I make the emergency sign, and she signs me to go up together, and we go up. I'm like, Amy, this is not working. My regulator, it's not working. I have no oxygen. This is empty, I think, or it's broken. She takes it. Yeah, it's fine. It's not broken, and you have enough oxygen. And I tell her, okay, but just put me back on the boat. This is not gonna work. I'm too scared, and I'll just watch from the boat. It's lovely. I can see it from here. It's fine, and I'll wait for you guys there. And then she says something like, yeah, but the sea, the ocean is calling for each and every one of us. And I roll my eyes at this hippie Greenpeace statement. But then she says, what if we do it together? And I collect all the courage that I have. She says, take my hand, and together we go into the water. And I hold her hand like a little child holds his mother's hand in a room full of strangers. And we go deeper and deeper. And an amazing on-the-water landscape appears. I see fishes in the most insane combination of colors, like made by a kid with a new set of pencil, hurrying to use them all at the same time. And together we swim deeper and deeper. And then I can't believe my eyes, and I glance at Amy. I'm seeing a giant sea turtle. And she makes the okay sign. And together we swim further. And then I let go of her hand.
Before coming to the Netherlands, I grew up in Florida. And Florida is a state almost entirely surrounded by water. So you would think that I would love the ocean as much as Farah did. Not the case. Because when I was little, I saw a made-for-TV movie about a giant squid that they unearthed but way beneath the depths of the water, and it came up and it ravaged this New England town, similar to the plot of Jaws. And it terrified me. And that same summer, my dad took me to the beach, and my feet were standing on the shoreline. And I curled my toes, and I looked out into the horizon, and I had no idea what lurked beneath. But my dad, he took my hand, and he scooped me up, and he put me into the red kayak, into this red kayak hole, and he strapped me in. And then he gets in on the back, and we tip over from the weight. but I can't get my red button on the seatbelt. And all of a sudden, that feeling of the pressure on your chest and the breath being in your throat and the inability to escape that took hold. But I was more scared of the monsters that were beneath me. That I imagined the tentacles and the pointy teeth and the tails all coming up from above and grabbing at my legs and trying to pull me down. Luckily, that wasn't the case, and my father turned over the kayak and I was safe again above water. 15 years later, I'm standing in a very shallow water, and I'm taking pictures. My camera is strapped to my chest, it's in a camera bag, and I'm taking pictures of families getting very excited, feigning surprise as a wave 3 times their size comes right up behind them every 90 seconds. I'm in a wave pool in Orlando, Florida, in a water park. If this were the real ocean, honestly, that would not be their reaction. So I take their picture, and I see all the other photographers next to me on their tripods taking pictures, telling everybody, smile, smile, smile. And it all looks like a postcard with the bended palm trees, the fans placed throughout the park, pumping scents of donuts, masking the scent of chlorine. And there's chairs like surfboards. And so my battery gets low, and I decide to go to the break room, which is like this RV car at the end of the park. And as I'm walking through the surfboard chairs, the donut smells, I see my manager. He's a former military guy wearing a Hawaiian shirt, and he's standing over Shark's Reef. Now, Shark's Reef is one of the only things that's real in this park. Just like its name, there's gray sharks, there's brown sharks, there's white sharks, there's stingrays, big, small, electric eels. I mean, like, this is like every villain out of Finding Nemo. And he's standing over this tank because guests can pay extra for 20 minutes in this environment. And he calls me over and he says, Lauren, I think we need to shoot these moments. These are the moments that we should be capturing. These. And I look and I see a family of 4 and a stingray right behind them. I want you to do it. He must have seen the red danger signs in my eyes flash, because he says, you've got this. So the next day I show up. I show up in the morning before the guests arrive, and he points to all the different places that you can take a picture inside of this Shark's Reef. Now, most of them, I can actually just stand on the ledge. I don't actually have to get into the water. And so I snap here, I snap there, he nods approvingly, and then he points to this rock in the center tank where a family of 4, I guess, could stop and admire, like, the stingray or the shark. And he says, try shooting from there. But this requires me to go down in. So I take one foot in front of the other, and I'm semi-submerged. And my toes automatically curl under, and I feel my breath caught in my throat. And I lift the camera up to my face, and I look through the viewfinder, and I'm met with 2 black orbs. I lower my camera. It belongs to a shark. We go back and forth in our exchange of glances. And with each glance, I feel it in my chest. And he dives underneath. And I'm wondering where all the tentacles and the pointy teeth and tail are, and when they're going to come and get me. But he hovers at my feet. And he moves from side to side. And suddenly, my toes that were curled under release. And my breath lets out, and I let out a small laugh, because it tickles. It tickles. And then he goes to the side of the tank, and that's it. And I'd wondered if I should have taken a picture.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of you guys. That was Maike and Farah and Lauren. We have some comments. And also, you guys know, if you're not in the Zoom and you want to be able to comment, you can. You can just join it. It'll be underneath where you're watching us. But Jackie says that she loves the way you detail, I think to Maike. And then to you, I even bought banana leaves one day and thought, oh my gosh, this is so spicy. And hi, Farah, I liked your story. Would you say that your adventure taught you something about letting go, from Melanie Jorna?
Oh, definitely, yes.
Yeah. You guys can comment what you think the message is, and you can also tell us any time that you have been taught a lesson with any time with nature. I mean, we all can be very, very obviously right now, we're all being taught a little bit of a lesson with the coronavirus, we could say. That's something like, I don't know, making sure that we hang around our loved ones enough, or maybe not too much, maybe that there's an enough amount of time to hang around our loved ones, and that we need to diversify our friend group. Also, that's a thing we might be taught by the coronavirus right now. If you're being taught anything and you want to share it with us, please do. And for now, we're going to have a song by the very lovely Eric Sjöholm. So please enjoy. It's an original by him.
The 3rd of September. All I can remember is how it felt like laughing as I fell down to the floor. It was my first time going with the ambulance. They told me not to worry and asked how I felt. Well, I've got a lot of things on my mind now, I said. And I don't wake up till you ask me to sing along. I don't wake up till you ask me to sing along. I gotta learn how to feel what's going on. I'm scared of not being aware. I'm scared of how it's such a surprise to find out how I feel when I'm stressed out. Imagine how far we can go. Imagine how we can burn our fuels too low until you can't go on. And I don't wake up till you ask me to sing along. I don't wake up till you ask me to sing along. I gotta learn how to feel what's going on. Oh, take a moment to breathe. Oh, take a moment to feel just where you are. I'm up in the clouds, wearing a troubled face. I'm becoming a ghost if I don't get out of here. So wake me up, wake me up, wake me up, wake me up, wake me up. 'Cause I don't wake up till you ask me to sing along. You don't wake up, no, you don't wake up till I ask you to sing along. Oh, we don't wake up till somebody asks us to sing along. We don't wake up, no, we don't wake up till someone asks us to sing along.
I have a huge scar in my right arm. And when I was a kid, I asked, Mom, why do I have this scar and the other kids don't? In my pregnancy, I stole a peach from an orchard. That's why. Really, Ma? Why did you do something like that? I guess I was hungry. It's part of your nature now. Get used to it. And besides, only special kids have these kind of scars. I began the middle school, and they made us wear uniforms. Black leather shoes, blue socks, blue pants, and yellow short-sleeve shirt. I hated those shirts. I asked the assistant principal, Sir, can I wear a longer shirt? No, each kid needs to look exactly the same. Yes, but are you rebelling? Young gentlemen, go to your class. I was wearing my jacket all the time, inside, outside, 4 seasons. And I tried to protect. And soon after, the older kids saw that and they started to mock me. They used to call me the jacket boy. Hey, jacket boy, come here. Show us the vagina on your arm. So it wasn't a very clear, very brightful year for me. At the end, summertime, my family decided to rent a summer house in the southwest Turkey. It was a beautiful white stone building surrounded by orange trees and lemon trees. I was playing football and swimming all day long. It was one of the most relaxed summertime in my life until this family from Istanbul moved next door. Unlike ours, they have one extra floor, and on your backyard, they have a little swimming pool. They had a son close to my age, sandy hair, bright blue eyes, and we were introduced, and he came very close by. And the first thing he said, I'm taller than you. You're not taller than me. Do you know how to play football? I'm going to show you who's the boss around here. Up until that moment, my experience was the rich kids, they cannot play football very well. So I accepted the challenge. It was a terrible mistake. I mean, this kid was like a tiny Maradona. He was able to hop the ball from right shoulder to left to right, and it just humiliated me. I stopped counting the goals that he made. And did I learn my lesson? No, of course not. I challenged him again, this time swimming competition. I was taller than him, my feet and my arm was longer, so we compete. But as soon as he jumped in the water, he became like a riverboat. His arms and legs synchronized like a machine, choof, 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 and he beat me again. My popularity was fading among other kids. And the last strike came when he brought this bucket filled with frogs, tiny frogs, each different color, blue, yellow, red, and he dumped that to their swimming pool. He invited all the neighborhood kids except me. And I can hear on our backyard how they were having fun. They were going crazy. I can hear the splashing sound. They're giggling. I had to do something. So I made a plan. Next afternoon, I went to Mom's kitchen. I stole a big metal pot, and I headed into the woods. Long pine trees were swinging. And inside, I heard this inviting sound. And I followed it. And here it was. The kingdom, a swamp filled with green vegetation. The flies were landing and taking off, and I immediately dashed and started to pick little frogs and put into my metal pot. But you see, they were not big enough. They were looked same as the tiny Maradona brought. I need something bigger, something impressive. And at that moment, I saw it. The floating throne, the floating truck looked like a throne, and on top, here it was, the king. I had to get that frog. I know that it will restore the balance. So I leaned forward. I broke a branch. I leaned forward more, a little bit more, but then I lost my balance and I fell into the swamp. And as soon as in there, I couldn't touch the ground. My feet wasn't touching the ground, and I get panicked. As much as I panicked, as quicker I was sinking. And the water just filled my eyes and everything went black. In a couple of seconds, I saw myself like an astronaut floating outer space without gravity. I had my jacket on. The jacket boy was struggling, trying to breathe, trying to adapt. And with the all strength that I got, I pushed my hand outside and trying to find something, and I catch the solid rock, and I push myself outside. And I get off, looking like a soaked pickle. I felt this movement around my body, and then the frogs start to jump out of my sleeve, my pants, and the rain started. And in front of me, in the metal pot, I saw the king who's waiting for me. Immediately, I hold the metal pot and I start to run. And the rain got faster and faster and faster. And the pot got heavier and heavier and heavier. I didn't want to let it go, but I couldn't do anything. And until the moment, I stumbled upon a tree, and then I hit the ground again, boom. And water and blood was coming out of my mouth. And I saw the metal pot, it was upside down, and the king was waiting in front of me, looking at me again. And he jumped and disappeared. I couldn't feel my right arm. I stood up and I went back home, and my mom was waiting. And as soon as she saw me, she screamed. And they took me to the hospital, and a doctor, they put a plaster, my arm was broken, and with a stabilizer, I need to stay at home for a while. I couldn't bring the king or the frog back home, but the plaster received a lot of attention from the neighborhood kids. I was popular back again, and they come. Even the tiny Maradona brought his colorful pencil. All the kids were drawing little tiny frogs on my plaster, and we shook hands, we reconciled. And very soon, I was back in the football pitch. And the kids gave me a new nickname. I wasn't the jacket boy anymore. I was the frog king, the holy goalkeeper.
Now, I come from Uganda, and in this home that I lived in the midtown city, just outside Kampala, the main city. In my home, all the homes around it, you see these fenced homes, concrete fenced homes that you couldn't see anything taking place in their neighbor's home. All you can hear are the sounds of the kids screaming. They don't want to go for a shower. I don't know. And in my home, we had this big tank of water that had pipes connected to the roof so that when it rained, the water came through into the tank. So we never had any shortage of water, not at all. I don't remember any day that we didn't have water. Now, once every holiday, I went to my grandma who lived 3 hours away from my home. She lived with 3 other cousins of mine, and in this village, the homes were open. The kids played with each other. You could literally just walk into the neighbor's home and ask for salt or milk, whatever you wanted. It felt more connected, better than where I came from. My grandma called me city grandchild. I was her favorite. I was the only one allowed to share a bed with her. And all kids in this village walked barefooted, but grandma made me these wooden sandals. As she said, you can't walk on this soil. One day, I remember she convinced everybody that I had accidentally poured a glass of water on her bed, although everyone could smell my 10-year-old urine. She didn't allow me to do anything. All I had to do was to sit next to her as she did the dishes, as she did the laundry, and told me different stories. Now, one day, I saw my cousins gathering jerrycans to go to the well. I went up to them and I said, "Grandma has allowed me to go with you." And they believed me. They handed me the smallest jerrycan there was, although I wasn't the youngest, and we started walking to the well. Now, this is a 30-minute journey, with the sun hitting directly into your skull in this tiny foot-made road, surrounded by grass, watching the cows graze. We took breaks every chance we got, because they thought I couldn't take it. I was not made to walk 30 minutes or something. We reach there, and it's this big man-dug hole filled with water to the brim, surrounded with these trees that protected the water from the unwanted objects. There are these logs of wood, wet, that you had to kneel on, put pressure on the jerrycan in the water, and the water comes in. That's what I was told. The young ones had to go first, so me and my other 2 cousins kneel on the logs of wood. I put pressure on the jerrycan, and before I knew it, I fell into the well. Now, it seemed that time had stopped. I could hear my cousins shouting, "She is going to die! She is dead! What are we going to tell Grandma?" My eyes are wide open. I'm seeing these beautiful plants and flowers, the fish and the snakes crossing each other, all the green walls of the well covered in algae. I hit the ground, the muddy ground, and I head back on top. I see their eyes wide open, their hands covering their mouths. One of them throws in a jerrycan. I hang onto it, and she pulls me out. We start walking back, but everyone is wondering, what are they gonna tell Grandma? This is the moment I have to tell the truth. So I say, actually, Grandma didn't allow me to come with you. What? Why did you do this to us? Why didn't you tell us? Now, what are we going to tell her? I don't know. We head back home, and Grandma is standing in the middle of the compound. She takes a good look at me. From head to toe, I'm covered in green, just like the well. My head is all muddy. She takes 2 steps closer. She says, "Why did you take her? You know she is not made for this life. She is too soft for this life. Why didn't you ask me before you left with her?" She holds my hand. She takes me into the house. She kneels down and she says, "I'm going to give you a warm birth, and you forget anything ever happened."
Okay, now this is one of your stories. It's a story of you 2 years ago, when you had just finished studying political science for the first year, and you were ready to change the world. You already knew how you were going to change the world, but you didn't know exactly where you were going to change the world. So you decided to look up the countries with the highest poverty index. And then from there, the countries that weren't doing so well in terms of women's emancipation. And then you found one that you thought you could handle. It was India. So you called your best friend and you told her that you guys were going to do a trip, but it was going to be justified because you knew you were going to mess up your carbon footprint flying all the way to India. So you decided to call an incubator and see if you could work for them for 3 months. And they said yes, and you were so excited. So you started a notebook with all facts from the city that you were going to be in for the next 3 months, Hyderabad. The notebook said it was a city with 6.8 million people, that there were 55% of them were Muslim, and 48% of them were Hindu. And the average temperature was about 28 degrees Celsius. So you knew a bunch about the city, and you were ready to head on over. And 17-hour trip later, you arrive in Hyderabad, ready to change the world. You put in the location in the Uber to go to the place where you were gonna work. And you and your best friend, you got in the car and you drove and you saw around in the window all of these people, bustling people with so much noise, but it was exciting. All of it was exciting, and so many colors that you hadn't seen before. And when you arrive to the place where the incubator is, all that is there is rubble and 2 cows. And you freak out. Because you have all of this guilt that you don't know where you're supposed to now dissolve. And you look at your best friend and she has nothing to say, so you guys decide to head back to the hostel where you're gonna make a game plan because your flight out of India isn't for the next 2 months. So you sit down and you start writing in your notebook, and all of a sudden you start feeling these cockroaches around. So you say, no, we go to Mumbai, and there we'll make our game plan. When we're sitting in a cafe with maybe a coffee with some oat milk, if that would be possible. But before, let's decide what it is we're gonna do. We're gonna interview women. We're gonna interview women that are trying to do good for their community. Great. And what are the problems of these women? We'll figure it out when we get there. And you go to the train station. You arrive, and there's the line for men and the line for the elderly, the disabled, and women. And you get in your line, and you buy your ticket. You're on the train wagon just for women, and a couple of hours later, you're in Mumbai, sitting in different cafes and researching about the problems that women face. And you start sending all of these emails marked with the stamp of the University of Amsterdam, because although, yes, you're not from there directly, but you went there for a year, so it's enough to legitimize your interview. And some women answer, and they invite you into their homes. And 3 weeks later, you find yourself with this giant 4K camera inside of a home in the Dharavi slum, which is a slum that is 2.1 square kilometers, and 700,000 people live in there. So that's Amsterdam in Oosterpark. You arrive in the home, and you're carrying this big backpack, and the lady who you're gonna interview, she opens the door, which is some kind of string with a little bit of a shirt cloth on it, and she opens and invites you in. And the first thing that you see is her mother and her father and 2 cousins and a little boy who you're not sure who that is. And they all move to let you sit on the bed. And you sit on the bed, and you place the big 4K camera there, and the little boy comes up to you to ask you if he can play with you. And you say, hey, sorry, not now, because I need to tell this story. You set up the camera, and you press play, and he comes to play again. And you say, hey, sorry, not now. You don't understand that if I don't tell this story, nobody else will. And you push him away again. And the grandmother comes to offer you chai. And you say, no, thank you, I'm working. And you take the recording, and you get the interview. And like that, there's 8 different cities, and 8 different women, and 8 different households that they bring you in, and 8 little kids that come and try to talk to you. And you brush past 8,000 eyes, walking fast and going where you're needed. And it isn't until 2 weeks before you're about to leave India that you think, you know what, let me do something for me. Let me give myself a gift now that I've been spending all this time giving. I'm gonna go up to Leh, to Ladakh, to the mountains, to the Himalayas, and I'm gonna spend some time there. And the whole thing is justified because I'll come back down by bus even if I take a plane up there, and it all makes sense in your head. And you arrive, and you're a city girl, so you've never seen these mountains like this. And they envelop your whole body. They're huge and brown and have ragged green, and the tips are white, and they look like they're kissing the sky. And when you sit in the airplane, the pilot over the intercom, he says, hey, just so everybody knows, we're at 4,000 meters above sea level. So that means that if you step out of the plane and you walk too fast, you might get altitude sickness. So you need to be careful, because if you get altitude sickness, some people die. And he repeats it twice, so you're a little bit freaked out about it. You get off the plane and you walk like a tortoise all the way to the hostel where you're gonna stay laying horizontal for the next 2 days. And you decide to do it in the terrace. So all around you, all you see are mountains. And you see the sun set. And then you watch the moon come up and take its place. And it seems like the stars kind of make their way up the mountain and then place themselves on the black sky. And everybody starts talking about how, since the sun is a star, might all stars be suns? And everybody has a hypothesis about this, about whether it is or isn't so. And then at some point you realize that there's no Google or anything to confirm or deny anybody's hypothesis, so you all decide to just shut up. And it seems like every star that's going up on the black sky makes each of your mouths close. And you let your back hit the back of the chair for the first time. And you watch the stars, and for the first time, you appreciate what it's like to stop. And then you forget.
walking down a dirt road, gonna go down to the well. Wanna ask a lot of questions, I wanna know who I am. It's like climbing up a mountain to try to save this world. And I talked to the stars, but even they didn't know why it all just falls apart. Why it all just falls apart. So they put you in a shark tank with a camera and a smile, and staring at a shark's eye, I really thought I would die. But it's your mind that creates this world. Even a jacket boy can become a king, I've learned. So then why does it all fall apart? Tell me why does it all fall apart? It was cold, it was dark, I couldn't see, I couldn't breathe, I couldn't feel the magic reality beyond, I couldn't dream. Amy, take me back to the start, 'cause it all just falls apart. Yeah, it all just seemed to fall apart. Caught by the sky as she took me by the hand, looked into my eyes and said, this is what it's all about. Ooh. I got caught by the sky as she looked into my eye and took me by the hand and said, this is what it's all about. This is what it's all about. It all just falls apart. Yeah, it all just seemed to fall apart.
All right, everybody, that was our evening. Thank you so much. Thank you, Eric. Thank you to all of our storytellers. And now I'm going to read a couple of the comments that we got. Thank you for commenting and thank you for engaging with us. We had Juliet said, the Frog King reigns. That's for you. Ribbit, ribbit, we got back. We got from Lisa, great story, Naomi, exclamation point. And from Richard, we have Eric, Addis loves you. Love the stories, everyone. And Melanie Jorna said, important remark. I think we should all stop more often. Yes, we should. Thank you for getting my message, Melanie, because that was the message of my story. All right, everybody. Well, that was our night tonight. Those were our stories for you, especially curated. And next time is next Friday, because every Friday, Pack House is giving you stories, and that's so lovely of them, and just really great that we get to have local artists here supported. And in case you want to support a little bit more, you're always welcome to. We have a QR code for you to pay as you like. Do it. What is it? €1? You could lose it. Anyways. Well, if you want to, you're more than welcome to. Either way, thank you so much for being here tonight. You saw Maike Koolhaas, you saw Farah Coppola, you saw Lauren Maxwell, you saw Betal Oze, you saw Naomi Namutebi, you saw Eric Shohom, and I with Lara Ricote. Thank you so much, and thank you, Pack House, for having us. Hope you have a lovely evening and you learn to stop. Mm-hmm.